Hi everyone, this is the last video in the series of 5 videos going over Module 19, and this is going to be all about our parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's just remind ourselves what we know about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. If we have parallel lines, then we know that the slopes of those lines have to be the same. Hold on, my Zoom doesn't want to... There we go. So parallel lines have to have the same slope. And then when we have perpendicular lines, we know that they are negative reciprocals. Negative reciprocals. And that really just means they're perfect opposites. So let's quickly just practice and remind ourselves what negative reciprocals look like. If I have a slope of 3/4, the negative reciprocal would be negative 4/3. If I have a slope of 2, that's like 2/1. So the negative reciprocal would be negative 1/2. Okay, this one we're starting with a negative slope, so the negative reciprocal to that is going to be positive 8/7. 1, well, the reciprocal of that is also 1, and then we're just going to make it negative. And then for 0, well, if a line has a slope of 0, then the opposite of that is an undefined slope. Okay? All right, so for these next few problems, we are going to find out if these lines, the equations are given to us, are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So all we need to do is look at the slopes and decide, are they the same, are they negative reciprocals, or are they neither? So let's start with the first one. Now, if my equation is already in y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form, then I just have to look at the slope, and it's as simple as that. So these two lines have a slope of 5. They're the same slope, so those lines are parallel. You can also use the parallel symbol if you don't want to write the word out. All right, next one. We have a slope of negative 3/2, and we have a slope of positive 2/3. Now those are negative reciprocals of each other, so these lines are perpendicular. Perpendicular. And we also have a symbol for that. It's like an upside down T that shows us that two lines are perpendicular. All right, next one. Now not, unlike this one, we still have to find our slope, but these lines are not already in slope-intercept form. So we're going to solve for y first, then we can take a look at the slopes. So for this first equation, if I want to isolate y, I'm going to subtract x from both sides of the equation. So I have 2y equals negative x plus 2. And I want to divide both sides by 2. Make sure you divide everything by 2. So now I have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. So I just divided each one of those terms by 2. Then for my other equation, let me just kind of separate this out. I'm going to again solve for y because I want to take a look at what the slope is. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides of the equation, equals negative 6x plus 21. And then I need to divide everything by negative 3. So on the left side, I've got y equals negative 6 divided by negative 3. That's positive 2. And this is going to give me negative 7. Now I can take a look at the slopes. I've got negative 1/2 and positive 2. Now we already saw that example up here. Those are negative reciprocals. So these lines are perpendicular. I'm just going to use my symbol this time. All right, last one I'm going to do with you guys, and then I'll give you time to pause the video and try the next 4. So this one, again, we need to solve for y. This one's already done for us. This is a slope of 1. It's almost like an invisible 1 right there. Let's find out what the slope is here. I'm going to add y to both sides of the equation. So I've got x equals y plus 9, and then I've got to subtract 9. So I've got x minus 9 equals y. I like when y comes first, so let's write that first. And this also has a slope of 1. So these lines are parallel. Again, you can use the symbol if you like that better. All right, so go ahead and pause the video if you haven't done the next 4, and then I will show you the solutions. Okay, so hopefully you're ready to move on, or you've worked on these already. And here are your next 4 answers. So again, all 4 of these, I had to solve for y first to find the slope, and then you just compare the two slopes. The reason that the answer for number 7 is neither is because these are both positive slopes. One would have had to have been negative for it to be perpendicular. All right, moving on to the next page. We are now going to find if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. We've just got some different equations here now. So similar to the front side. Okay, so first one, again, solving for y here. Just more practice on isolating our variable. I'm going to go a little quicker on these ones. So again, I want my y by itself. So I've got 5y equals negative 10x minus 5, just subtracted 10x. And then divide everything by 5. That's going to give me negative 2x minus 1. So here's my first slope, negative 2. And then this one, oh, this one was already solved for y. So we already have slope-intercept form. It's also negative 2 for the slope. So these lines are parallel, and I'm just going to write that symbol right there. Okay, number 12. These both are not isolated for y yet, so we've got to do both of them. This one, we've got to subtract 4x from both sides. So I've got 5y equals negative 4x plus 10. On the right side, I'm going to do this equation. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. So I've got negative 4y equals negative 5x plus 28. All right, let's finish out this equation. So divide everything by 5. I've got y equals negative 4 divided by 5x, and then 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I've got my first slope right here. And then for my next equation, divide everything by negative 4. So I've got y equals negative divided by negative is a positive, 5 over 4. And then 28 divided by negative 4. Okay, that's going to give me a negative, and 28 divided by 4 is going to give me 7. Okay, so these two slopes are negative reciprocals. So that means that these lines are perpendicular. Okay, next one of our equations is already done for us. The slope is negative 3. My slope over here is going to be, well, let's find out. I've got negative 3y equals negative x plus 15. Divide everything by negative 3. Negative 1 divided by negative 3 is positive 1 over 3. And then 15 divided by negative 3 is going to give me negative 5. So here I've got a slope of negative 3 and positive 1/3. These are in fact negative reciprocals, so I've got perpendicular lines. All right, and then 14, well, we don't have to do any math here, but we can think about this visually. If I were to draw just a quick little x and y axis, and I'm just eyeballing where these lines would be. If I had the line y equals 5, well, that's a horizontal line at the value y equals 5. That's y equals 5. And then y equals negative 1 would be down here. Y equals negative 1. Oops. So those are going to be parallel lines. Those are both horizontal lines. All right. Next section, we are going to write some equations given the information. So the first problem, I'm given a point and a slope. So it makes sense that I would use point-slope form. So all I have to do to write this equation, now remember point-slope is y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. All I'm going to do is substitute values in for y and x, and then substitute the slope in. So let's write it out. Y minus, my y1 is this value 13, so minus 13. Then I'm going to write my slope, negative 2. And then I've got x minus this value, x minus negative 7. That turns out to be x plus 7. When you subtract a negative, you really are adding. Okay, next one. Y minus 6 equals, then we write our slope, negative 3/4, and then x plus 4 since it was negative. Okay, next ones are just points, but that's okay. We can still do this. We just have to find our slope first, then we can write our equation. So I want to find slope. That's y2 minus y1, or the change in y, all over x2 minus x1, or the change in x, rise over run. So let's substitute these values in. This can be my second set of values. So this could be x2 y2. This could be x1 y1. And let's put those into our equation. So y2 is 1 minus negative 11. So that's like plus 11. Negative 2 minus negative 5. That's like plus 5. And let's simplify. So this is 12 on the top, and 5 minus 2 is 3 on the bottom. Okay, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So our slope is 4. Now we can go in and write our equation. You can pick either of these points, doesn't matter. I'll just pick the first one. So we're going to do y minus negative 11, so it's y plus 11. Our slope is 4, and then x minus negative 5. That's like x plus 5. Okay, so let's do the same thing for this next one. We're going to find the slope. So I'm going to, again, label these x1, y1, x2, y2. So I've got negative 7 minus 8 in the numerator, and then I've got 3 minus negative 6, so that's like 3 plus 6 in the denominator. Okay, so negative 7 minus 8, if we combine those, so they're both negative, so it's going to give me negative 15, and then 3 plus 6 is 9. We can simplify this, so if I divide top and bottom by 3, that gives me negative 5 over 3. All right, so that's our slope. So let's write our equation. Y, and I'm going to use my first point again, minus 8 equals, then write our slope, and then x minus negative 6. So it's like x plus 6. So I just used my point slope form for all these answers. Okay. Then our last two problems, we are going to write equations of lines that are either parallel or perpendicular to another line. These are probably going to, again, be in point slope form, just because that's what we're given. So we have been given a point here, negative 6, negative 1, and I know it's parallel to negative 2/3. So I know this is my point, this is my x1 and my y1, and I know my slope has to be the same. So I know it also has to be negative 2/3. Okay, so if we write our equation, y minus negative 1, so y plus 1, our slope is negative 2/3, and then x minus negative 6, or x plus 6. All right, last one. This time it's perpendicular. So first, again, I want to label my x1 and my y1. We also know the slope is going to be the negative reciprocal of this. So I know my slope of my answer is going to be 4 over 1, or just 4. Okay, because that's the negative reciprocal of this one. All right, so we're ready to write our equation. Y plus 11. Then we write our slope, positive 4. And then x plus 2. You can obviously distribute this 4 and get this into slope-intercept form using a little algebra, but we're just going to leave it like this. This is just fine. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you've seen all 5 videos now for Module 19.